Some crimes don't stand alone. They don't announce themselves. They wait. They wait quietly, spread across years, cities, and lives that never seem connected. At first glance, they look like isolated tragedies. A missing family, a man who never came home, a body discovered too late. Different places, different people, different stories. But patterns don't need to be loud to exist. Welcome back to Cursed Whispers. If you've listened to every story this season, you've already felt it. Something repeating, something familiar. Old houses, locked doors, delayed investigations. Authorities returning long after the public stopped asking questions. This final story is not about a single crime. It's about why none of them were ever meant to be solved. It started quietly, inside an internal review that was never supposed to happen. An analyst noticed similarities between cases that had been archived under different labels: missing persons, unsolved murders, family disappearances. On paper, they had nothing in common, but procedurally, they were identical. The same investigators reassigned without explanation, the same requests for architectural documents, the same focus on old residential structures. Not suspects, not motives, buildings. When the locations were mapped, something unsettling emerged. These houses weren't random. They shared characteristics that made them ideal for one thing: time. Thick walls, sealed basements, renovations lost to history, ownership records incomplete or missing entirely. Places where sound didn't travel, places where absence could be mistaken for privacy, places where discovery came too late. In several cases, authorities arrived at secondary locations before crimes were publicly known. In others, witnesses were interviewed and then quietly excluded from follow-ups. Files were merged internally while remaining separate in public systems. This wasn't incompetence. It was design. The goal was never to identify a killer. There was no official serial profile because the crimes didn't rely on a single individual. What linked them wasn't who committed them. It was access. Access to spaces that allowed crimes to unfold unseen. Access to structures that protected silence. Access to time. One internal memo described the strategy as procedural containment. Once a case matched the pattern, it stopped being an investigation and became a monitoring operation. Certain houses were flagged, demolition permits quietly delayed, sales discouraged without explanation. In one documented case, a house scheduled for demolition was removed from the list days before machinery arrived. No public reason was given. The structure still stands today. Not because it's historic, because it's unresolved. Families were never told the full truth. They were given fragments, delays, administrative language, words like inactive and pending review. Not lies, just enough truth to prevent questions. And here is the most disturbing part. The pattern didn't end. The most recent case connected to this sequence is still open. Not cold, not unsolved. Ongoing. Which means the procedures are still active, the houses are still being watched, and the system is still waiting. Not for justice, not for closure, for repetition. Because when a system learns it can survive silence, it doesn't correct itself, it adapts. And in this story, the most terrifying truth isn't who committed the crimes, it's who decided they didn't need to be solved.